A poor man was driving home after a long day's work when suddenly his car broke down. He was desperate for a solution and ended up calling a tow truck. But when he asked how much it would cost to get towed, the man on the phone said, "I want $1,000. The poor man was astounded. "But that's way too expensive," he exclaimed. "How about 800? asked the tow truck driver. Still, the poor man couldn't afford it, and he ended up making a deal with the driver for $500. The tow truck arrived at the poor man's house, and he paid the driver the $500. Then he invited him in for some tea. The two men sat down, and the poor man said, "You know, you're a good man. Would you help me do something?" The tow truck driver, who was enjoying the free tea, agreed. "Well, I have a friend who also has a tow truck, and he charges by the hour. He won't charge you anything less than $2,000. The poor man said, "Well, would you mind telling him that someone sent you and maybe he'll charge me less?" "No problem," said the tow truck driver. Later that day, the other tow truck arrived, and the driver got out. "I'm here to pick up your car," he said. The poor man explained, "Well, I have a friend who also has a tow truck, and he'll charge you $500. The other driver couldn't believe it. "That's crazy," he said. "He's probably a new driver and doesn't know any better." After loading the car onto the truck, they drove to his friend's house. When they arrived, the other tow truck driver said, "Here's your $1,000 check." The poor man said, "Actually, my friend wanted me to tell you something." "What's that?" asked the tow truck driver. The poor man leaned in close and whispered, "He said if you ever try to charge anyone $2,000 for a tow, he'll come after you." The tow truck driver went pale. "He did threaten me," he stammered. "I thought we had an understanding." "We do," said the poor man, "but you're forgetting one thing." "What's that?" asked the tow truck driver, now very nervous. "You see, he also told me to tell you that he knows a lot of people who have tow trucks, and all of them are willing to work for half of what you charge." The tow truck driver gulped. He knew the poor man was right. If he charged $2,000, he could be replaced easily. From that day forward, the tow truck driver never charged anyone $2,000 for a tow again. Once upon a time, in a small village nestled between rolling hills, there lived a young man named Thomas. Thomas was known throughout the village for his exceptional carpentry skills. His wooden creations were not only beautiful to look at, but also incredibly sturdy and long-lasting. People from neighboring villages would also come to Thomas for their carpentry needs. One day, a wealthy landowner from a nearby city visited Thomas. He had heard about Thomas's exquisite craftsmanship and wanted to hire him to make a magnificent wooden chest for his daughter's dowry. The landowner offered Thomas a substantial sum of money for the chest, enough to change Thomas's life and his family's future. Overjoyed, Thomas accepted the commission and began working on the chest immediately. He selected the finest wood and spent weeks crafting each piece with meticulous care. Every morning, the landowner would visit Thomas's workshop to check on the progress and offer his feedback. At first, Thomas was thrilled with the attention and the opportunity to showcase his talent. But slowly, the landowner's constant interruptions began to irk him. One day, the landowner entered the workshop and noticed that Thomas had made a small mistake while carving a floral pattern on the chest. In a fit of rage, the landowner grabbed a hammer and smashed the chisel that Thomas had been using. "How can you make such a careless mistake?" he roared. "Do you think this is some cheap roadside stall where mistakes don't matter? This is a priceless heirloom that your ancestors must have made." Shocked and hurt by the landowner's outburst, Thomas dropped his tools and ran out of the workshop. As the days passed, Thomas grew angrier and more resentful towards the landowner. He felt that his years of hard work and dedication had been belittled, and that the landowner had no right to treat him so poorly. On the day the chest was supposed to be finished, Thomas decided that he would teach the landowner a lesson he would never forget. He invited the landowner to his workshop for one last inspection before delivering the chest. As the landowner entered the workshop, he noticed that Thomas had placed a heavy blanket over the chest. Intrigued, he asked Thomas to unveil his masterpiece. Slowly, Thomas pulled the blanket away, revealing that the chest was not filled with intricate carvings and precious jewels, as the landowner had expected. Instead, it was filled with sawdust and shavings. Thomas looked up at the landowner and said, "This is the priceless heirloom that your ancestors must have made." The landowner was stunned. He realized that he had treated Thomas unfairly and had no right to demean his hard work. However, he was too proud to apologize and simply stormed out of the workshop without paying Thomas a single cent. From that day on, Thomas continued to craft beautiful pieces of furniture, but he never forgot the valuable lesson he had learned. He understood that true wealth lay not in material possessions or social status, but in the respect and dignity that one earned through one's work and character.